to Gwinnett County Public Library. My name is Amy Perry, and I'm an Adult Services Specialist here at the library. Tonight, we are excited to have an author talk with Emily Carpenter. We would like to thank our bookseller, Johns Creek Books, and Emily will be doing signing and questions towards the end of the program. And tonight, I would like to introduce our special guest. Our moderator this evening is Wanda Morris. She is the acclaimed author of All Her Little Secrets, Anywhere You Run, and What You Leave Behind. Wanda is a former corporate lawyer, a member of Crime Writers of Color, and serves on the board of International Thriller Writers. Our featured author is Emily Carpenter. Emily is a former actor, producer, screenwriter, and behind-the-scenes soap opera assistant. She was born and raised in Alabama, and after graduating from Auburn University, she moved to New York City and now lives in Georgia with her family. She is the Amazon best-selling author of Burying the Honeysuckle Girls and The Weight of Lies. Tonight, she will discuss her newest thriller book, Gothictown. Please welcome Wanda and Emily.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Can you hear me? Great. All right. Great. So listen, if you, my husband is an avid newspaper reader, and so if you had the March 23rd issue of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Sunday, look at this. Look at this beauty. I read this and I was like, yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. And then I get the invitation to interview you, and I'm like, the angels are smiling on me. So I don't know if you get the hard copy of the paper. Did you see this?
I did. I saw it. We don't typically get it, but somebody got it for us.
Because I was going to gift you that.
I get a digital. I will take it. Thank you.
Then that is yours. That is my gift
honored.
to you.
Thank you. Yes, it was quite a surprise to see that in all its
lovely.
glory.
It was very lovely.
Thank
very
you.
lovely. So listen, I loved your book. Before we dive in, though, congratulations on the new grandbaby.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
She has a new grandbaby. Give us all the details.
Yes, so my son and his wife just had a baby on, oh gosh, what day is it? I guess it was Monday? Yes. And they're just home today. Oh, nice. And I've only seen the baby once, but my husband went, I was driving over here and my husband was over there and I was like, tell him this, tell him that, tell him that. He said, you'll have time to tell him all the things. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well,
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That's so exciting.
Thanks.
I don't have any great kids yet, but I keep telling my daughter, I think I'm ready to be a big mama. So,
big mama, I like it.
Big
I
mama,
like it.
Yeah.
In due time.
In due time.
I'm an Emmy.
So listen, let's jump right into it. I love the book, Gothictown. It was, magical, no pun intended, but it was really, a really deep dive on a lot of issues. So I get to sit here and ask you about them today. So for those who haven't read it, just tell us a little bit about the book.
So Gothictown is basically about a Manhattan restaurateur named Billy Hope. And she lives in New York, and this is right after the pandemic, and she's had to shut down her very successful restaurant. So she's kind of climbing the walls. She's got her husband, Peter, in the apartment with her. He's a therapist, and their small daughter, Mare, is 6 years old. And Billy receives an email one day telling her and offering her a chance to take part in something called the Juliana Initiative. It is a economic program that a small town in Georgia, Juliana, is offering to try to get people to move to the town and kind of boost their economy. They're offering beautiful houses for $100 and business grants. And so Billy and her husband say, yeah, why not? We'll move down to Georgia, get out of the city, and start a new life.
Lovely.
Yeah, so
that's when things start to happen.
That's the beginning, yes.
So what inspired you to write this book?
So, as a writer, you're always keeping kind of the scanner out for good ideas. And I started back in 2016, 17, I was reading a lot of newspaper articles about cities in the US that were down on their luck, like needing to boost the economies, and they were looking for new citizens. And then I read an article. That is a loud train.
Choo-choo train.
Then I read an article about a tiny little town in Italy. They were giving away crumbling medieval villas for like €1. This town was dying and they were really afraid of becoming a ghost town. And so the way my mind works, I immediately am like, oh, that town is full of Italian vampires looking for new blood. And
There you go.
and I was like, here is a book idea on a silver platter. All I need to do is just kind of pivot to make it be Southern and Southern Gothic, and because that's what I do.
Yeah.
And so that was Gothictown.
I love it. I love it. So in the opening pages of the book, there is a lot of loss. And as we know, loss can be a driving factor for change.
Yeah.
So what made you use that particular concept, and how does it impact Billy, the protagonist of the book?
Yeah. So some people have said, oh, is this a pandemic book? And I'm like, no, not really. This is just sort of post-pandemic, and it's like what has happened to Billy after the pandemic, which is losing this restaurant. And so I really thought about not just losing, I mean, we've all experienced job loss or, having to cut back, having to budget more. But with Billy, I really felt like she had lost her identity almost. She had this, I really thought of working in a restaurant as sort of putting on a show, like being a part of a theater troupe, and she is the director of the show, and she's kind of gained notoriety in town. People know her, so
Celebrities coming to a restaurant.
So she's lost not only this sort of income and job, but she's lost her identity a little bit, and is kind of looking for that.
And that, I don't know if people realize, but that could be a really tough kind of break, because you're not only trying to find what you lost, but you're trying to navigate a new normal, which they seem to think that Juliana would give them, right?
Yes.
Okay. I got to tell you, one of my favorite things about this book is that you have assembled this amazing cast of characters. I haven't seen characters this great since like fried green tomatoes.
Oh, I love
that. Seriously. And so I'm hoping that you can talk a little bit about not only Billy, but characters like Jamie Cleburne and Dixie Manette and Major Manette and Ox Dalzell.
Yeah.
I love the names, right? Aren't those great names? Talk to me about kind of where those characters came, what inspired you, how did you bring them
Okay,
about?
I love that you love the names and because that's part of what I love as a writer is when I get this opportunity to write like super Southern, like people that have lived there forever, and there's just a particular naming style. I'm from Alabama, and so like I know these people, and a friend of mine and I were laughing and talking about, like, somebody asked us, how do you stay away from those stereotypes of Southern Gothic and the little town? And we're like, well, we don't really, because just as soon as you say, oh, well, that can't be true, it's true.
I know. I write about small towns, and it's true.
Yeah, just when you think, like, that cannot be the case. So that is my delight, is to write these people. And definitely being from the South, I mean, I love the South. I have, I love the South. And I also hate it in a way. I mean, it's very much a love-hate relationship.
Right.
But those people are dear to me, and I love kind of getting in there and exploring their good sides, and then maybe their darker sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have all, and I won't spoil it for you if you haven't read the book, but I think we all know like a Dixie Manette.
Oh, yeah.
Or an Ox Dalzell. Oh yeah. I could picture him in my mind when I was reading. I was like, yeah.
Not my favorite.
Not my favorite, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk and shift gears a little bit. There is this, for lack of a better term, this brooding kind of presence of the old guard, what you term the old guard, which is really kind of like the patriarchy in the town. And it kind of looms over the town and the town's people. And they kind of originate from these original families, right, that founded the town. And in the book, you dabble a little bit, you touch on things like abortion and the requirement for women to have children, bear lots of children. So is that just a convenient coincidence, or were you trying to parallel some of our societal norms that we're gearing towards?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so this is I can't just write a book that's like full of twists and turns that are just like on the surface, like I'm gonna, put you on a roller coaster and you're up and down. Like the book has to mean something to me, and it has to have like a deeper message. Now, if you're not in the mood for a deeper message, I hope you can still read it and enjoy the twists and turns. But if you want the story to actually be about something, that is important to me. And so, yes.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute? Because I know some people will say things like, oh, I didn't come to this book to, be preached at, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think your book does that. It doesn't do it in the least. I think it's not didactic. It's not preachy. I think you just talk about what you need to talk about and what's relevant.
Well, and I think the way it's hard without giving spoilers, but what you want to do is represent these characters in this town and actually talk about how they would behave in certain situations and who they would put on a pedestal and who they would maybe look down on.
Right.
And so I think as you start to get to know this town, some things are revealed, like, oh, these are the types of people they don't value very much.
Right.
And these are the people they do value and put on a pedestal and want to come into their town. And so
I love that, and I tend to do that as well. I know that my books are usually centered around a Black protagonist. But when you kind of chisel down, they're really issues of class, aren't they? Like the haves and the have-nots. And I saw that clearly in your book as well. And that's
it
what I
is
loved
hard
about
to
it.
separate that, I think. But when you get down to it, it's an issue of we're going to be over here.
Right.
We have our little club, whether we call it the old guard or whether we call it a church or whether we call it, and the rest of you are over here.
Over there.
So I think about that a lot. And of course, that's an issue in everywhere. It's the human condition. But in the South, it has a certain tinge to it.
It does, doesn't it? And I think sometimes we look at it through kind of the filters that we come to it. But I think, I often tell people, when you read one of my books, you might think initially it's about one thing, but it's really about how we all behave and interact at the end of the day. So talk to us a little bit about the paranormal aspect. I love, love, love that in this book. And it is both creepy and very integral to the story. So, I know we don't want to give away spoilers, but you mix the genres of mystery and paranormal. How did you set out to do that? Did it just come about because you set out to tell a particular story? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So I have, as I've written books and gone further in my career, I've kind of honed in on this Southern Gothic genre and what it means, and like all the different ways that a book can be Southern Gothic. And so I went into this really wanting to walk that fine line of that kind of feeling of like, did I hear something? You know, is that a ghost, or did I just not get enough sleep last night? And so yeah, there are Southern Gothic books that are like full-on vampire books, but this is not that. This is that like wisp, that hint of maybe something's going on from the other side, and I really love that. And that feeling to me is it's something that I love to explore because I have questions about it. Like when I dreamed about my mom after she passed, I was like, was that really her, or was that just my brain?
Yeah.
Like I question those things, and I know we all do. So yeah,
I love
I
that.
set out to do that.
What was your
hopefully.
biggest challenge in mixing these genres, in exploring
It's
this
that
aspect?
it's not going overboard and saying like for sure there are these whatever ghosts or spirits, and hopefully keeping the reader intrigued and believing and saying like, again, like I didn't come to to read a vampire story or, you know, some paranormal, but just that hint of it, like we have in our real life.
Yeah, absolutely. Who hasn't
to
had
time.
an experience like
I mean,
that,
I
right?
haven't met anybody who's never had anything happen to them like that makes you think.
And, you know, our normal brains kind of dismiss it as, you know, oh, that's just a shadow against the wall, or maybe I had a little too much wine after dinner. And, you know, do you believe that the living can talk to the dead?
I don't know. I would like to think so, actually, because I think there's things to learn, but I can't say for sure. I'm still
That's
questioning.
Yeah, that's really interesting because the way you deal with it in the book is so eloquent and it's so believable. It doesn't devolve into like caricature, and I love that.
You.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question because people always ask it of me.
Oh.
Who would you cast as Billy, Jamie? Did you have any particular actors in mind when you sat down to write these characters? Dixie, that's who I really want to know. Dixie.
Okay.
As you can tell by now, Dixie is like one of my favorite characters.
Dixie Manette is the mayor, and she is a woman in her like early 70s. She has the thing under control at all times.
As my 16-year-old son would say, on lock.
On lock.
She's
Dixie
got it on lock.
has it on lock. And I actually had in my mind for her, if you watched Succession on HBO, Jerry, you know, the way, like she also played a Southern character in Rectify, and she just has that like blonde updo, and she's just in her little business suits, you know, but then can turn around and just slay you with it. Yeah. So I kind of pictured her, or like a Meryl Streep, kind of like imperious, you know. Yeah. It was weird for Billy. So this has been optioned for TV. And I actually had a Zoom call with the producers, and they asked me, and I was like, honestly, I have respect for casting people, and the truth is, I didn't picture any one person. Billy became a character to me, so I never really started, you know, patterning her after anyone specific. But she could, you know, she could be anybody.
Yeah. Do you, like when you're writing your characters, I know for me, I don't, like you, I don't set out and look at a particular actress and say,
not
oh yeah, she
usually.
would be great.
Yeah.
But my characters come more as a vibe, like I know it.
Yes.
Do you have that?
Yes.
I tried
It's
to
very
explain
hard
that to another writer, and they were like, what is that
Oh
even
no,
mean?
I know what
Yeah.
you're saying. Like
Yeah.
my characters don't really speak to me, but yes, I
Exactly.
definitely feel like Billy's vibe is like she is both in charge but totally open to learning something new and like being in a new place and just
Yeah.
trying something new.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
You know who else I love is Meredith, their daughter, Peter and Billy's. Yeah, Mare. Yeah, she's so sweet and she's so open. And I think because you've drawn this 6-year-old, I think she's
Yeah.
6-year-old, the 6-year-old in the book, so well that it just draws you into this whole family unit, you know? And I was like, I was rooting for her. I was
Yeah.
rooting for Ramsey the cat, you know? It's like,
Yes.
I want this whole family unit to make it. Come on, come on.
Yeah.
Mare, don't go out there.
Yes, I know.
Mare, there might be an open well out there. Don't do
Be
that.
careful, dangers everywhere.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to write kids. And
Yeah.
you do it really well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is hard
It is
because
hard.
like I don't like it when they when writers make kids like too precocious and say things. I'm like, they would never say. But Mare's pretty smart and she still says kind of precocious things and then she just is a kid.
Yeah.
So, but that I really loved writing her because that was the reason, like people say after they read the book, they're like, why didn't Billy get out when she could, And I'm like, okay, first of all, no mortgage on a house with 12 acres, excuse
Right,
me.
12
That's a big
acres, a
deal.
beautiful Victorian for $100.
That's it. No
and
mortgage.
no property taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. And then her daughter's happy. Like her daughter, and I always say this, like you're only as happy as your most unhappy kid. It's like when your kid is happy, you will do whatever it takes to like make it work. So I think Billy possibly could have been like blinded by that a little bit. Anyway. Yeah.
I love it. What was your biggest challenge while you were writing Gothictown?
Oh, it was that. It was, why is Billy not just gonna leave right this minute and get, and I will say, we face this in as suspense writers, and especially if, you're writing a contemporary story with like Google and cell phones and, there are many means of escape.
Right.
And I really had to dig down and think, what is it that's going to keep her in this extremely unfriendly town at this point? And it really got me to thinking about books that I have loved and how I loved the ending. And I started thinking about something I do love about John Grisham is he will always end the story not only with the protagonist getting away from the bad guy, but also turning the tables on the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's what Billy would do.
Yeah.
Like Billy would go, I'm not just gonna run away. Like I'm gonna set a trap.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, and
And part of that was her personality
Yes,
too,
for
very
sure.
much so.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
even
sure.
when she closed down the restaurant and she opens the new restaurant in Juliana, it seemed to me, or you wrote it as if her personality was the type that wouldn't just give up
Oh,
or
she's
run
a
away.
fighter, for
Yeah,
sure.
she's spunky.
Yeah,
She's spunky.
and you see that some in her mom too, in her
Yeah.
relationship with her
mom.
quirky mom.
Yeah, and Edge.
Yes.
His character
Edge.
names, I'm telling you guys. A guy named Edge.
Like the guy from you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Oh, that's great. That's great. What was the most fun you had in writing this book?
Making the playlist. So I have a
Yes,
playlist.
I was going to get to that. Yes, that's something we have in common.
You do that
I do
too?
playlists for every one of my books.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
me too. I didn't used to do that, but it's like a new thing, and maybe Spotify has just gotten better since I started writing, but I love doing that.
I
And
do
My
too.
playlist ends up being so long. And then I put songs on it twice, and it's like, it's already on here.
You got some good stuff on
Yeah,
there,
it's really fun,
too.
and I keep adding stuff too. There's songs in the book, like I typically include music in
Yeah,
my
I do
books.
too.
Yes,
Yeah, I do
because
too.
I feel like that's part of the fabric of our lives, and you
Right.
remember things are happening and music's playing in the
Yeah, and people
background.
resonate with music
Yeah.
too. So, speaking of music, there is a song that you reference several times throughout the book called The Vacant Chair.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit, one, about how you came upon this song and why this particular song, if you can talk about it without giving away
Yeah,
spoilers.
no, it's so The Vacant Chair is like an old hymn, and so the book starts in 1864. It's during the Civil War in Georgia, and Sherman is about to march through Georgia. And usually in suspense books, you like save the like big bad secret thing that happened, in the past. You save it till the end, and then you do the big Scooby-Doo reveal at the
But
end.
you don't.
No, not in this
Oh.
book. In this book, I was like, I'm putting it right in the beginning. And so anyway, all that to say, we start in 1864, and I was really wanting to incorporate, I always find myself incorporating either old hymns or like scripture references and stuff, because I feel like that's in the fabric of the South.
Right.
So I was researching hymns that people sang during those times, and I found The Vacant Chair, which is a hymn that is about the war, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it is about losing a loved one in the war, and both the North and the South sang it. So I thought that was very ironic that they were engaged in the struggle and both singing this like plaintive kind of ballad about losing a loved one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just had that haunting quality.
It
to
does,
it.
and it's on the playlist.
Yeah.
And when I listened to it, I was like, ooh, it fits
Yeah.
the book perfectly.
Yeah.
It quite fits the book very perfectly. Let's pivot a little for anybody who writes or just interested in writing. What is kind of your writing process? What do you do when you say, I've got this idea?
Yeah.
And how do you go about making that something that's between the covers of a book?
Well, you heard I start with that first idea. Like I was talking to you about the newspaper article I read about the town in Italy. Then I do a very sort of rough outline, and I actually got it from my days of writing screenplays, and it is a 3-act structure, and it's just, I draw it on a legal pad. It's the 3 acts with the turning points between each act and a midpoint, and I look at it, and I have it written out, and I say to myself, do I have 3 acts? Do I have interesting turning points? Do I have a cool midpoint, which is so important,
Yes.
I think? Do I have like big sort of cinematic set pieces maybe that people would like to read about that seem like maybe they haven't read that in a book before? And if I have all those things, I think I have a book. And so I don't start writing until I look at that piece of paper and say, I have a book. So after that is when I go to the laptop. And then I'm like, I write every day, drafting that first draft, 2,000 words a day. no matter what.
So 2,000 words. So you were like, I'm getting my 2,000 words in.
And they are not always good words.
But I commend you. I mean, I go to the desk, and some days I can get 2,000 in, and some days it's like 200.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that happens, and I try to give myself grace.
That's
The
what I do.
goal is like, just keep moving forward.
Right. Because you can always revise what's bad.
Correct.
You can't
Yes.
revise what's up here in your head
Totally
or what
agree.
you're noodling on.
And sometimes it feels like a momentum thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I don't get it out fast enough, it'll go away.
Scatter to the wind. I know, right?
Which is
had
kind
those
of
things.
magical thinking.
I
but-
know, and I'm like, is it that I'm just getting old, or that the ideas just scatter? So I write everything down.
Yes. Yes, me too. Now.
Yeah, I have
I
to
used to
write it
hold
all down.
things in my head.
Right, and I was like, oh yeah,
remember.
I'll get to that. I'll remember that. And then, you know, I'm standing at the kitchen sink, and I was like, what was that? Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh yeah, that definitely is a new thing. Yeah.
Do you sit at the computer and you compose? You don't do any longhand or anything?
No,
like
I
that?
don't do longhand past that outline.
Okay.
I'm all on the laptop, but I take breaks. I don't like sit until there's 2,000 words, for heaven's sakes. Like, no way. But, you know, take my dogs for a walk, take myself for a walk, do laundry, do house, whatever, run errands.
Do you ever feel like you get stuck? And if you do, what do you do to fix
Well,
that?
Stephen King said, take a walk. And that does help to just leave it.
Yeah.
And, you know, or a lot of times I get stuck on a problem. I'm like, I don't know, I've written myself into this and I need to be over here. And that's when I think I trust my subconscious to solve the problem for me.
Yeah.
And I'll just like go do something else.
Yeah. You mentioned Stephen King. I think his quote is something like, let the boys in the basement work on it. Yeah, right?
yeah.
And so you leave it alone, and your
Perfect.
subconscious kind of works on it. And I used to think the first time, you know, I read Stephen King's book on writing, and I was like, what the heck does that mean? And then when it started tapping, I was like, oh yeah. And so I will wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Isn't that
that's
wild?
where she needs to go. Or that's what, you know,
Or-
she needs to find the gun there. Yeah.
Or you listen to a song or watch a movie or watch a TV show. And it's not even that the TV show is giving you the answer, but it's like something.
It opens up your brain.
Yeah, it's
I
really
tell you,
wild.
I kid you not, I was in an elevator and a woman got on the elevator and she had this scent. And I thought, oh, that's what I need to do. And it was just
you
because
kidding
this
me?
woman
The
came,
scent?
is scent. She had on a scent. I don't know what the
See,
perfume
now that
was.
kind of thing does make me believe in like, like the
Exactly.
other stuff.
Yeah, like the woo-woo stuff. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
a
that's
scent.
nuts.
Yeah, and I had been saying to myself, this was when I was writing my third book, What You Leave Behind, and I was like, how do I make this distinctive? And I was like, oh yeah. And so I came up with the particular scent, but I thought that's how I could do it, and that's how this person could enter into the scene every
That's
time.
beautiful.
And I thought,
I love that.
oh yeah. And it's so it is that kind of thing. And I had been stuck on that for at least 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so you're right. Sometimes you just have to step back from
Yeah.
it and let it.
Let the boys in the
Let the boys in the basement
girls
do
in the
their work.
basement.
The girls in the basement. That's right. I'll let the girls in the basement. So, can we expect to see more of Billy and the Manettes and the Dalzells and the Cleburns?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see more of them, but maybe if they make the TV show and if there's a season 2, maybe we'll see. But that's a long way off. So there's something else next year. I have a new book coming out.
Yay!
Called,
Can you tell us about it?
Yes, totally. It's called A Spell for Saints and Sinners. And
I love the title.
Oh, thank you. It's set in Savannah, my favorite city. And it is about a young woman who has inherited her grandmother's psychic business
Oh.
in Savannah. So her grandmother's passed and left her this kind of crumbling townhouse and the psychic business. And Ingrid, my main character, is frantically trying to get enough clients and make enough money to like do the repairs needed on the house. And she does a reading for a bachelorette party and does a really like spot on reading for the bride. And turns out the bride is the daughter of the wealthiest family in town. And they kind of pull Ingrid into their world of trouble and mayhem and secrets. And Ingrid has to figure her way out.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That sounds so good.
Thank you.
Well, I've been yammering and picking your brain, and I know these good people probably have lots and lots of questions. So I'm going to turn it over to the good folks here in the audience. So we'll take some questions.
Yes, Dawn.
I love the cover of the book, and I remember about a year ago when the cover first got revealed, you were so excited about it. So how much input did you have? Was the first cover they sent you the one you picked, or how many iterations of it did you have to go through before you got what you wanted?
This was the result of months of work. I mean, sometimes you get the first cover and you're just like, boom, that's it, perfect. This one was not that easy a process. The first couple of tries and tinkering with those tries were just not hitting the right feel, you know? So this was kind of the third go round, and they sent this, and it was almost just like this, and I was like, perfect, that's perfect.
It is a great cover. Was the title always Gothictown?
Yes, I thought of Gothictown. I loved the title, and I kind of like what do you call when you put two words together like that? Some grammatical term I can't ever remember. Anyway, I love words like that, or titles like that. So I came up with it. My publisher was like, maybe we'll keep it, maybe we'll change it. And I was thinking, no, don't change it. It's great. It's the best title I've come up with. So anyway, yeah.
I love it. It is a great cover. It is a really great cover.
Thanks.
Any other
It's
questions?
an excellent title. I think it's a very catchy title.
Yeah.
I struggle with titles. I'm telling
Titles
you.
are hard.
Titles are
5
very
books out, but I've never been able to get the right title.
Do you name your own books? How
So
is that?
titles are my Achilles heel. I will admit it. I will come up with a title, and I usually come up with these titles that I think are so, deep and esoteric, and it gets to my editor, and she's like, nah, that's not thrillery enough. And I'm like, I love that. Like, my first book is called All Her Little Secrets.
Yeah.
Well, the working title for that book for years, because it literally took me years to write that book, was The Elephant Fighter. And I love that title because it was derived from this African proverb that said, when elephants fight, the only thing that suffers is the grass. And I was like, oh, that's so deep.
I have chills.
Right?
Why didn't they keep that title? I like that
Somebody
title.
said,
Yeah.
they're going to think it's a book about the circus. I'm like, they're not. Come on.
People are
Give me a
smarter than
break.
that.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So they thought it wasn't,
Yeah.
thrillery enough. But here's the thing, and this has happened with every single one of my books. They're always like, give us some alternative titles. I give them alternative titles, and they're like, no, I don't
not
think
that
that's going
either.
to work. No, the sales team isn't really feeling that. And then I'm like, I got nothing.
Right.
And then they're like, well, okay, we'll just take it to the sales team and let them come up with the title. And I'm like, absolutely not. You will not name my book, baby.
Yeah.
And so they give me a deadline, and I usually come up with the title.
It's
But titles are hard.
Titles are hard, and I will say that the publishing business does try to make it sound like it could be anything. Like you have a book called All
Her Little Secrets.
All Her Little. Well, I have every single secret.
Look at that.
It was
See?
the same kind of thing, and it could be about anything.
Exactly.
And you're like, I like titles that are specific, like The Elephant Fighter.
Right, exactly. And I thought, oh man, this is going to really get them. And it doesn't. And I'm going through that process now with my next book. And so my editor is like, so we're thinking about the title. Did you have any other titles? And I was like, but I like that title.
this
I like
one.
this one. And so my next book I've been calling, it may not publish this way, A Killing Kind. And right?
that.
And I was like, people are
Send
going
it
to
to
see that on a
me.
bookshelf and they're going to be, what the heck is going on in this book? And they're like,
that.
and I'm like, But here's the thing though, and you probably find this, is that they're the publishing professionals and they've been naming books a lot longer than I have.
sure.
So I have to at some point release and kind of let them do
It's a blend of like sticking to your guns, but also having the humility to know
say, you're the
you guys
professional.
know the market better than
exactly. Yes.
Can I ask like two questions in one? Okay. My first question is, who inspired you to be an author and the direction that you went in with the thriller, suspense, and stuff like that?
Oh, that's a great question.
That is a good question.
I've always liked writing, and I started off wanting to be an actor, and then I wanted to be a screenplay writer. But the idea to actually write a novel came to me because a girl I went to middle school and high school with wrote a book. And I hadn't been in touch with her for a long time. She had moved to Paris, France. She had a very glamorous looking life to me on Facebook. And she wrote these YA books that are amazing. They're called Die For Me, and I know the first one is Die For Me. Anyway, they're about like revenants, like zombies kind of. Anyway, she was just this person that I grew up with from Birmingham, Alabama. And I was like, she wrote a book. Oh my gosh, how did she do that? Like, maybe I could do it too. I mean, seriously, that's all it was. And I just started researching and Googling. So that was my first kind of like, oh, maybe I could write a book. And then to write a thriller, I read Gillian Flynn's book, Sharp Objects, and I was like, oh, wow. And I knew Gillian Flynn I used to read her movie reviews in, I think it was Movie Line back in the early 2000s. She was one of the movie critics for that magazine. So I knew her and I respected her as a writer, and I knew she loved movies. And then she wrote this book that just was so dark and emotional and like scary and atmospheric. And I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Are you a writer?
Actually, no, but I've always wanted to be one. I just don't know where to start, honestly. Like, I'm a very creative person, and getting that on paper would be probably a lot.
It's a lot.
Yes.
It is a lot.
Like,
But I tell people who want to be writers, just take 15 minutes out of your day and sit somewhere and say, I'm going to write just one scene. Two people walk into a room and they have a conversation, something happens, and then they leave the room. And just write that one scene. And I guarantee you, once you start, if you really want to write, you go, I can do this. And it really is one scene at a time. It's hard. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sugarcoating it, but just try it. Just try it. 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
And see if you like it.
And see if you like it.
and can I ask about your book title and how you do you come up with the book title first, or do you come up with the plot, or if so, how do you make the plot around the title?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's different for every book. Every book is different. Sometimes I'll have written and finished the whole book and I still don't have a title. But this one, I came up with this one pretty soon, like soon after I started imagining, like when I was doing the handwriting on the legal pad. But I will say that coming up with this, I was thinking about the Mexican Gothic, that book that had come out, and I loved the fact that she told you what the book was about.
Yeah.
She was like, it's Mexican Gothic. And I was like, I love that. I'm just
Yeah.
going to tell people this is a Gothic town.
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
My question is a technical one. How did you come up with the 2,000 words? Because I struggle writing 1,000 words a day.
I'm a very fast writer, and so a lot of my friends write much more slowly, and it doesn't matter. You know, maybe your goal does not need to be 2,000 words a day. Maybe it needs to be 500 words a day. And I've met plenty of writers. There's no right way.
Is that a good number, but 2,000?
It is to me because it challenges me, and it gets me in the flow, and it forces me to work like long enough to get in the flow. If my goal was 500, I that would not.
I just have to
Okay,
like
what about the
scroll.
other lady there? How many words a day do you do?
Me? I don't think of it in terms of words a day. What I do is I say, I want to cover this particular section of the book because, you know, like,
I got your paper.
Yeah,
well,
and it's valid.
like Emily, I kind of plan out what the book is going to be about. I do a rough outline, and so I kind of know the pivotal scenes. And I tend to be a linear writer, so I will write the scenes in the order. And so I know that, you know, Elise Littlejohn has to enter the office, find her boss dead. She has to, you know, run away from the scene, and then people start inquiring what happened up on the 20th floor. So I know that I want to write all those scenes, and so I set out to write those. And that's why some days I'll have 2,000 words, some days I'll have 250. And it, you know, like you say, I try and give myself grace when I have those days where I don't write a lot of words. And, you know, I just think, I'm still noodling on it. I'm thinking about
Always.
scenes, I'm researching, I'm doing something towards getting that book to the finish line. Yeah, but you have to find what works for you as a writer. Right, and I remember when I was starting out, people would, you have to write every single day.
You don't.
And I'm like, I got kids,
Yeah.
and I got carpool,
Yeah.
and I'm sick. You know, whatever happens, life's. And so I was trying to follow everybody else's rules, and it wasn't working for me. So you have to find what works for you as a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really loved how it was, you had the old pieces, and then also it was so young, like it was so like now with the Zoom and at the starting when it was like the remote work line, I was like, okay, this is like happening now. So I was like, I love that, and I was just wondering like how, when it comes to balancing like the elders in the Baptist church and stuff like that, like how did you feel like? How did you come? Because the balance when it was so good. Like, how did you achieve that? Like, I guess is my question.
Oh, I don't know. A lot of editing, I guess. Like, thank you for saying that. That's really, I'm glad that that is one of the things I feel strongly about the South, is that, what is that William Faulkner thing? It's like the past isn't dead, it's not even past,
it's not
or whatever.
even past, right?
Yeah, it's like in the South, and especially in these kind of smaller towns that are more cocoon, they're not part of a big city, there's elements that are just really stuck in time. And I find that fascinating, and that's like one of the hallmarks of Southern Gothic, is like this sort of like weird sort of time issues, and like and so I love having that, like feeling like a little bit Billy stepping back in time in a lot of ways. With the new conveniences, she can still Zoom.
Yeah, I love that. It was so, like it felt like. I'm sorry, I'm it's like it was just so like the Baptist starting and then go with that remote line work, and I was like, wait. This is amazing. This is just amazing. So. Yes.
We do start in a Baptist church, and I did have one guy at a meeting, he was like, what'd you got against the Baptist church? I was like, you know what? It could have been Methodist. I just like rolled the dice and it was a Baptist church.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Any other questions? This one in the back.
Yes.
So you talked about the inspiration for a lot of the book, the story from Italy, the town. What was the inspiration for the location of your book, Gentle Juliana?
Yes. So I knew Juliana was going to be a fictional town. I also knew that it needed to be in the path of General Sherman during the Civil War, during his march to Atlanta and then his march to the sea. And as my town, Roswell, was. And I learned the history of my town, Roswell, years ago when my kids were little. We did kind of a historic tour. And Roswell, during the Civil War, had 3 cotton and wool mills. The men had gone off to fight for the Confederate Army, and so the owner had put their wives and children to work in the mill. So when Sherman marched through, he found Roswell was a great place to cross the Chattahoochee River at a place called Shallowford, which is still Shallowford. But he also found those mills, and they were flying a French flag in some kind of deluded attempt to, make him think, we're French.
We'll fool him.
We're making all this stuff for the French, not the Confederate Army. But what he did was he executed the superintendent of the mills. He declared the women and children traitors, and he put them on train cars and shipped them up to Ohio and Kentucky. And basically, they were never heard from again. So when the men came back from war, they found their families gone. And I just found it, a real, war is devastating. Like there is very, very little good that can come from it, and people get hurt in the fallout. But it was a very haunting story to me, and so I thought Juliana's going to be not where Roswell is, but in this path. And I knew Sherman was going to march through. He was going to be looking for industry to destroy, and they were going to want to hide their industry from him. So that was kind of my inspiration for Juliana.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Any other questions? I think we have time for one more.
I just wanted to ask, you said it may turn into a TV show?
Yeah, it's been optioned by AMC TV and Made with Love Media, and for a limited series. So that's all I know. There's actually they have hired an executive producer and a showrunner named Abby Ajayi, and she used to she worked for How to Get Away with Murder with Shonda Rhimes and Inventing Anna on Netflix. So she's like,
She's got some chops.
oh yeah. And she had a
She's
TV
got
show
some credit.
called Riches for Amazon, which only had 1 season, and it's really good, and it ends on this like incredible like twist reveal, and I knew there was no season 2. I was like, ah! That must have been a heartbreaker to her. But anyway, so all of those things are in place, so we'll see.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you
y'all.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so
This was
much.
wonderful.
Yeah,
So Emily is going to be signing right over here at the table. So grab your copies, get your copies signed, and thank you all for coming out tonight.